A few days ago, I got my new Drop CTRL high-profile mechanical keyboard in the mail. I got this one from Amazon, and today I just swapped out the keycaps for Enjoy PBT's all-white keycaps. And meanwhile, I had ordered some supplies for lubricating the switches, and just started doing that today. So I'm going to walk through how I'm doing that on this keyboard. It's slightly different from what I was expecting. Still really easy, and I think it makes a difference. I just finished lubricating the home row of key switches. I haven't done the stabilizers yet, but the home row sounds pretty different from the unlubricated top row. So here's an example of the sound: the home row and the top row. So it's subtle. I think they feel different too. The home row feels smoother and kind of solid. The top row has this sort of chalkiness, a little bit more of a wiggle. So it's subtle, but I think it's fun. It's interesting to see the difference. So let's go through the process of lubricating one of these key switches. I'm using Krytox GPL 105 oil. This stuff is way more expensive than I expected. This is like, let's see, this is 1 ounce of oil, and it was $50. You can buy smaller quantities of this from online vendors who repackage it for you. I just bought it because I'm gonna probably use it for other things like bikes and stuff, but that's expensive oil. I thought I'd try it just to see what everyone's talking about. Seems pretty nice, but obviously I haven't compared to other oils. So the Drop CTRL comes with this sort of multi-tool, which is mainly a keycap puller. It includes a Phillips head screwdriver in it as well. I have a paintbrush here for applying the oil, and have some various ways to open the key switches. I ordered this tool from Amazon. It's a little metal version of a 3D printed part I've seen online in various forums for opening MX style switches. This Drop CTRL keyboard came with Halo clear switches. Yeah, these are Halo clears. So unfortunately they open a little bit differently, so I couldn't use this tool. I'm using a screwdriver. It works great, so it's fine. So let's do the Q key, see how it goes. I'll show you the process from start to finish. So first we got to pull out the keycap. Just use a keycap puller and yank it off of there. And next we have to get the switch out. So the switch is a plate mounted switch. It has little tabs on the back and front that keep it in place. And I'm going to move this over and zoom in on it so you can see. Let's do that. Okay, so these are plate mounted switches. It's a big keyboard for this camera. So we just need to grab it out of there. The Drop CTRL came with this switch remover. It's not great because you can tell in the profile the sort of these tabs just slant in. I wish they were more horizontal. This key switch opener that I got came with an alternative version of this tool, which has tabs that bend in more sharply, which I like. But this one is too wide to fit in among keys that are already installed. The keycaps block it. So I'm going to be using the one that came with the keyboard, even though I don't love it. You put it in here and settle it in the little notches on the front and back of the switch. I know you can't see this very easily, but you just kind of squeeze it in there, and I like to sort of rock the switch back and forward. Let's see if I can. And if it doesn't come out relatively easily, like you kind of have to pull on it, but you might find that it feels a little stuck. So you might need to try grabbing the tabs a little bit again with the tool. So there's the front tab that's holding on to the plate, and there's one on the back as well. And this tool is kind of pushing those in. So you can see the plate under there with the LED, surface mount LED, and the little socket for the switch, which is pretty cool. So let's move the keyboard out of the way and take the switch apart. So these mechanical keyboard switches are generally constructed in similar ways. They're really simple devices, and I'll show you how it works when we have it open. But first, let's take it apart. Ooh, it's kind of hard for the camera to focus on it because it's clear. Okay, hopefully that's not too blurry. So unlike the cherry switches that have little plastic tabs on the sides, this switch has one big tab. So there's the clear plastic comes all the way down over to the bottom here, and there's two little white plastic retaining bumps in there. So I'm using just a generic, this is an iFixit screwdriver. You can use any kind of small flathead screwdriver. This one is 2 millimeters wide, which I think is the perfect size because you want it to fit up between these two tabs because we're going to push it up in there. So you just tuck the screwdriver underneath this plastic and push up until, and you're not going to break the switch unless you don't have to pry, just slide the screwdriver in until the top starts to release. And we'll flip the switch over and do that again. And this side, you might have to dig in a little to get the screwdriver underneath the tab. See if I can get that in there. There we go. Ooh, that was sudden. Okay, so the top has unclipped and that'll just pop off because of the spring in here. So the first time you take one of these apart, you're probably going to forget which way everything goes together, but there is an easy way to put it back together even if you jumble all the parts up. So we'll talk about that in a second. So when we open it up, you'll see inside there's the switch post, like the actual part that the keycap attaches to is here. And it has two little feet on the front. See if I can show you those in profile. So those little feet kick the metal contacts as you push the switch. And I don't think my camera is going to get close enough to show you this, but when you actuate the switch, and those little feet are pushing on this copper, it touches it makes a complete circuit basically. So this piece of folded sheet metal also gives the switch its feeling. And this is a tactile switch, but it's not clicky, which means it has a little feeling of a detent based on the shape of the feet on this piece of plastic, and based on the strength of this spring, this sheet metal, not the center spring. And as you push the switch, it kind of gives you a little bumping feeling, but it doesn't make a clicking sound. So some of the clicky switches, I haven't had one apart. Have more parts, and I'm going to lubricate this one. So if you lubricate a clicky switch in the wrong places, you might make it too smooth. It won't be clicky anymore, so keep that in mind. Okay, so basically we want to eliminate the sort of chalky feeling and just make this really smooth. So we're going to lubricate all the places where plastic touches other plastic, and we're also going to lubricate the spring just for good measure. I don't know if that's really necessary. So I have a paintbrush here, just a small paintbrush. I'm going to apply a little bit of oil to the paintbrush, and we're going to brush it onto the plastic. And before I do that, you can hold this plastic switch insert in your hands. You can hold it like this and rotate it. And actually, you can see that there's oil on it from the factory, but we're going to replace that with, we're just going to go over it with new oil. I'm going to hold it with tweezers, and in particular, I'm going to use these locksmithing tweezers because they're reverse action, which means you have to squeeze them to open them, and then they spring closed, which is really handy. So let's just tuck this in here, and now I can let go of it, set it down, which is pretty convenient. Okay, so I'm going to put a drop of oil on this brush. You can decide how much you want. There's lots of videos covering how much oil to put on these. I like it pretty thick on here because these are smooth switches already, and I just want to make them even smoother. So I'm just going to brush the oil onto the sides. I watched the Teja Types video about his process for doing this. I'm following the same sort of general process, and these are just slightly different to open. I'm also probably applying a little bit more oil than he does. Oop, totally off camera there. So let's do sorry, this is way up in the camera here. Let's do the front. And I'm brushing it onto these little feet. Get a little on the post. And then do the back as well. This is low. Probably should use a different background color besides white for this video, given that these switch components are completely white. You know what, let me swap this out for a black tabletop. Is that better? Oh, that is extremely better. Okay, so sorry for the high contrast, but at least you can see the outline of this piece now. Move this piece of paper. Okay, so you kind of have to look at this in bright light to see where you've applied the oil. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like. Probably not, given this camera angle. You kind of want to look at it slantwise so that you can see light reflecting off of it. Let me just check on this one. Brushing oil all over the front. Make sure the sides look really thoroughly coated. Looks good. Hard to do this while also watching the camera to make sure everything's still in frame. Okay, great. So this part's lubed. I'm going to leave this just sitting here in the tweezers. And then let's grab the switch again. So we have the housing of the switch with its little contacts. I'm going to lube the bottom of the spring where it coils up. Just tuck the paintbrush in there and circularly go around it. And stick this back in the switch housing. And then, so springs are annoying. You might want to hold this with a fingernail because as you try to brush lube on the top, it'll pop out. So I'm going to hold it in with my fingernail and then paint the lube on the top of the spring. Okay. And the little feet of the piece of plastic, the insert, those feet on the left side, need to touch the contacts of the switch. So this is, if you've forgotten the orientation, you'll know how to put it back together. So the copper contacts on the left are what actually make and break the circuit. So I'm going to put this in with the feet kicking against those copper pieces. And if you jam it down in there and then let go of it, it'll spring out because it's spring loaded. So I just set it lightly on top of the spring. And then the top of these halo clears has an asymmetric profile. So there's a, one side is like a ramp. That side is opposite the contacts. So the logo is on the side with the contacts. I don't know if you can see the logo. You sort of can see it on the left there. So let's stick it back on. Make sure the switch sort of falls in place and then just grab it from the front and back and slide it together. Great, so this one's done. It's faster as you keep going. Obviously this is a time-consuming process. Oops, didn't snap it all the way together. But the result is that it feels really good. So now that this is lubricated, we can put it back in the keyboard. Zoom out again. So bringing back the keyboard, you can see easily on these, you can just see through the hole to the PCB. Move some stuff out of the way here. You can see where the switch's contacts need to go. They're on the front part of the switch, front side of the keyboard. So don't put it in backwards. If you find you're forcing it, it might be backwards. These pins on the bottom of these switches are pretty delicate. So try not to bump against them or bend them as you're putting the switch in. So just gonna stick the switch in there, try to get it vertical, and then shove it in. Great, that's it. So you're all done with that switch. You can put the keycap back on, match the keys nearby, just presses it on, or press it on there. I say putting the keycap on sideways. And there we go. So there's a lubricated switch, and for comparison, unlubed one. Cool, so I have other thoughts about this keyboard. I like it. I just got it again, but I think it's really cool so far. It's very heavy. I'll do a review of it in a different video, but for now, I'm gonna finish lubing up these switches and then I'm gonna move on to the stabilizers. So I'll be posting a full review of this keyboard in another video, going over things I like about it, things I don't like, and the troubles I've had programming it and how I'm gonna try to fix those. So thanks for watching.